Welcome to Green Blocks Initiative, single-use plastics and some solutions to reducing carbon and plastic use. Green Blocks Initiative was created in 2021 as an alumni engagement resource that shares personal actions, community involvement, and global vision to retain 2020 lifestyle changes caused by the pandemic that encourages us to reduce carbon emissions and to reach the 2050 Paris Agreement goals. We would like you to be inspired by some of these issues, crises, and solutions that we're presenting today. And then please share yours. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see YBG-GBI@gmail.com, where you could send in your conversations, webinars, talks that you've given, articles that you can summarize, and let us know what your personal action is, how that involves your community, and what the global vision is. We're going to start today with David Bergman, who will tell us a little bit about the Green Blocks single-use plastics crisis. David?
Thanks, Margot. So let me immediately start out just by sharing a screen. And 1 second to share sound, there we go. And we thought we would start by just giving a little bit of the background, although I suspect most of the people viewing this know the urgency of the single-use plastics issue. But just a few slides with as few numbers as I can get in there. We know that it's a horrific issue plaguing both the oceans and many of the best beaches we have around the world. And just to give you a few points of scale here, in the near future, relatively near future, we're talking 30 years from now, they're saying that there will be by weight more plastic than there are fish in the oceans, which is just, sort of I don't know, it's a scary prospect, it's a mind-boggling prospect. And we know that a lot of it is just plastic bags. And many of us have seen those absolutely horrid pictures of, of dead fish, but the one that's so hard to watch of the turtle with the straw in its nose. There have been stories about whales with, hundreds of plastic bags inside them. And that results, part of the result of that is how much single-use plastics we've been producing, but also how little of it actually gets recycled. So we can look at it as a sort of a before and after problem, that we're making all these single-use plastics, which is the origin, but then we haven't figured out what to do with them immediately or even long-term afterward. So I'm not going to read through all of these numbers. As I said, a lot of you are probably familiar with the scale and the urgency, but I've highlighted just a few of them, to impress upon us, the numbers of, for instance, the numbers of plastic bottles, 1 million per minute. And it's just mind-boggling, 4 trillion plastic bags annually. And then we could go on with this, but I want us to go on. Here are just some images of one of those ones you may have seen that's so hard to look at, of the albatross that's, they opened the poor thing up to see what it had died from, and you can see very well what's inside it. And similarly, samples of water. I mean, it's a very recognizable toothbrush that was floating in one of the ocean gyres, lots of bits of plastic which get mistaken for plankton by birds and by fish. There are some solutions out there, happily, and one of them is, actually two of them are from the Ocean Cleanup Project. And I like showing this to my students, by the way, because the inventor of this, his name is Boyan Slack, I'm probably mispronouncing it. He started working on this when he was, I believe, 16. So I like telling my college students that, hey, there are things that you can be doing. The idea of this one is a giant boom is pulled across the ocean, and the boom collects the surface plastics while still allowing fish to go underneath it. And it's in tests right now. And actually, a lot of us doubted that it would work. And the problem was, in a sense, it worked too well the first time, and they have to fine tune it some more. And then this inventor went on to study and to realize that, before the plastic gets into the oceans, it has to get there. And it's from just a few rivers. Actually, there are even fewer that are the major portion of the plastic. It's talking about 1,000 rivers here. He went on to create a second invention. And I'm going to see if I can play this video. It's a short video.
The Ocean Cleanup develops technology to rid the world's oceans of plastic. To do so, we need to not only clean up the plastic that is currently there, but also stop new plastic from entering the ocean. We need to close the tap. Most plastic in the ocean originates from rivers. Our research found that 1,000 rivers are responsible for 80% of plastic entering the oceans. So far, solutions to stop river plastic have been few and designed only for individual locations. Until now. Meet the Interceptor. Developed by the Ocean Cleanup, this is the first scalable solution to prevent river plastic from entering the oceans. This is how it works. The solar-powered interceptors are strategically located in the river. Debris flows into the system, while boats are still able to pass. The barrier directs waste to the mouth of the interceptor. Here, a conveyor belt extracts the debris from the water onto a shuttle. Because the system functions autonomously, the shuttle knows when to equally distribute the waste into one of 6 dumpsters located on a separate barge. At any time, operators can remotely access the interceptor's dashboards from anywhere in the world. Once full, the interceptor automatically sends a message to local operators. The barge is brought back to shore, emptied for recycling, and reattached for further collection. At top performance, the interceptor can extract up to 100,000 kilograms of trash per day. Working together with governments and private companies, we aim to tackle these 1,000 most polluting rivers in 5 years' time, helping us to close the tap and achieve our goal of ridding the world's oceans of plastic. Find out how.
So I'm sorry to cut that off a few seconds earlier, but you can go to their website to learn more. And this is actually getting into production. You can see here, I assume it's a prototype of the boat and part of it in action. So it's lovely that it's beginning to happen. And there's some other things that we can look at as well. This is it's a material recovery facility, or a MRF is what they're called. And another thing I often do is I take my students to a tour of the one here in Sunset Park in Brooklyn, which is the largest one in the country. And again, it's another pretty phenomenal system. Impressive in how it works. I forget how many miles of conveyor belts there are that it goes through, but it's a lot of work to make it happen. And even with all of that, we have a really horrific, I guess, depressing success rate with this. And you can see here that as of just a few years ago, a mere 8% of our plastics were recycled. There are, I describe that as sort of an after the fact solution. Wouldn't it be better to simply not have those single-use plastics, not just get into the rivers, but not even be out there as a problem? And we are seeing some solutions coming forward, albeit a little slowly. One of them is actually from a Yale alumni, happens to be from my class, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. And he, along with a congressional sponsor, have introduced a bill to make a tax on single-use plastics, a tax that would start out at 10%, go up a few years to 10 cents, and then go up to 20 cents. That is a better attempt at preventing the problem from happening in the first place. And another way to look at this is, we individuals, consumers, we didn't really create this problem. It happened because of industry, the bottling industry, packaging industry, all these related aspects that use these single-use plastics. And those producers have not been made responsible for what they produce. And instead that has been sloughed onto us consumers and to the governments that we have to pay into. So there is this concept of extended producer responsibility. And it's beginning to take hold. There are countries in Europe that have done this already. There are 2 states, Maine and Oregon in the US, that have EPR regulations in place, and several other states that are proposing similar bills. So that may put us at least partway on the path toward reducing the numbers of single-use plastics. There are other organizations doing this. One of the best ones is this Beyond Plastics, and they've been on a mission, as it states here, to address this very same problem. And my own little part of this, on my Optimism website, I've created a database of all of the bans and regulations and fees around the world, of countries, of cities, states, and businesses, all of these that are taking place. And when I started this a couple of years ago, it wasn't very large. Now it's well over, I think, a few hundred entries in the database, and growing. So that's another very good sign. With all of that, it still is incumbent upon us, even while we try to get industries to be responsible, it's incumbent upon us to do what we can as well. So just a couple of pictures from my own kitchen, and I'll confess to a guilty pleasure of loving that stuff we're not supposed to love, sodas. But you may have heard of Sodastream, you may have one. So I'm making my own seltzer and then making my own soda, rather than buying all those Coca-Cola plastic bottles that we can throw out so often. And of course, there are the metal straws, the reusable straws that we're supposed to be carrying around, so as not to put more straws into that poor turtle's nose, and many other things. And by the way, Margot's going to talk about many of the things she has discovered that she uses, but just for instance, another one, bar soap in the kitchen rather than plastic bottles. And then, we too often buy our produce, our greens, in these very handy pre-washed containers, which I've learned not to do anymore, just buying the bunches of lettuce from the green market or even from the grocery store. But I've kept those containers, and all of my compost gets cut up into there and stuffed in the freezer until I can make it to the green market most weekends. And I do have one other guilty pleasure that well, among other guilty pleasures, one other that I've tried to convince the green market sellers to work on, and they haven't yet. But I have a soft spot for pie, and the guilty part is I just can't get out of these single-use plastic clamshell containers. So we're all trying, and there's a lot of things we can do as individuals. But yeah, we need to put pressure on industry as part of this process. So I'm going to turn it back to Margot, and you have a lot of things to show us.
So I've put together some links that you could use for gifting or to re-outfit your home, to use less plastic, and to not be shipping 90% water. We have water running into our homes as is. Grove catalog offers concentrated window washer, multi-use cleaners that you add to glass bottles. Put a little bit of Dawn in the bottle and add your own water, and it works out fine. On the right are bamboo tissues in small cardboard boxes, not plastic casings. It's shipped in cardboard, it's light. I'd like to introduce you to the Earthling Company. This is a tub of soap. You could also use bar soap, and then a bristle brush with wood handle. So all of that will decompose over time. Bite toothpaste was invented by a chemist in her living room during 2020. You chew the tablets, which is kind of like a lifesaver with mint. You use a wooden toothbrush, so then when you reorder it, it comes in a paper package. So here's a package from Zero Waste Cartel. It has vegetable brush, bottle brush, a toothbrush, all in light cardboard packaging. Another option is Blue Land offers a tablet that you add to water for hand soap. For clothing, they're sheets, kind of like we're used to dryer sheets, but these are detergent sheets that come in a cardboard box. Put the sheet right in the washer. The water is pumped in already, saving on both carbon emissions of shipping water and plastic use of bottles. This I've really enjoyed. It is Viore rice shampoo and conditioners from the Longshan rice that is grown by the Red Yao culture. This is sustainably purchased from them. And it helps to tame those graying hairs, as well as being a very good conditioner. Another option we have at bulk purchasing, reuse your plastic bottles. If you like to use a liquid soap for your guest bathroom, this is a good way to keep those refilled. There's things around the household. When you cut into your tomatoes, save the seeds, dry them on a paper towel or a newspaper, and pop them in your back garden or in a pot. Reuse the plastic. Why go out and buy these little labels when you could just use what is coming in? I like to use lavender flowers, dried lavender flowers, for air freshener too, so it's not a spray in a bottle. So thank you for listening. Would anybody else like to share some?
I'm going to add 2 programs that I'd like people to be aware of. The first is called the WRAP program. And this is a program that is available in at least 4 states right now. My home state of Connecticut does it, as does Wisconsin, North Carolina, Washington, and I think new states are rolling out. And this is a public-private partnership with the Plastic Flexible Film Recycling Group. And what you do is you take all of your plastic wrap things, so things like baggies, things that wrap around. When you get paper towels, you have plastic wrapped around them. When you get toilet paper, your things wrapped. Your things get shipped in bubble wrap, or those sort of plastic wrap pillows. You take all this plastic that you get all the time. You get this coming into your house. You take it all to your local grocery store, and they collect it, and then they ship it back, and it gets recycled into things like plastic picnic benches or other things. So it gets used and recycled. And it's, as I said, I know it's in at least 4 or 5 states, and it is rolling out to new states. So look in your state to see if you have it, and take these things, collect them, and then take them out to your local store. The other thing I'd like to share is a program called Loop. And this is, again, rolling out in a lot of areas. 2 major retailers have bought onto this, Kroger and Walgreens. And what it basically is package. It's basically taking a lot of the products you buy every day in your stores and having them shipped to you in reusable containers, and you ship back the reusable containers. And these are some of the brands that are participating in a lot of the 7th generation, Procter & Gamble brands such as Tide and Crest and Cascade, I believe, are theirs. Clorox is doing it. So a lot of the big plastic containers that you get, you don't need to buy them in the store. You can get those brands shipped to you in reusable containers, and then you ship the reusable container back, and it's all done very easily. But it eliminates the plastic and basically the single-use plastic. So those are the 2 things that I would strongly encourage you to look at and see if they're in your area, because if we can eliminate the plastic up front, then it doesn't get into our oceans, and it doesn't get into our waste streams. And that's really your first point of attack should always be reducing the amount you use to begin with, as opposed to having to recycle it on the back end. So thank you for trying those 2 programs. And check into Green Blocks for new exciting things that we'll share coming up on some of these webcasts.
Please send us either a audio recording, article, pictures for Green Blocks, and we'll post them